If ChatGPT could make bets, what would it put on? In this video, I have asked ChatGPT to make a bet for each of the upcoming Premier League games with odds, and then asked it to explain why using form, previous stats, and AI analysis. So we are going to be getting 2 bets per game from the AI model, and one is going to be purely analytical and a bit more on the safe side, and then I've asked it to do more of an adventurous one so we can spice things up a little bit. But anyway, let's jump into it. So the first game of the game week, which is going to be Man United versus Brentford. So we can see here on screen, we've got the analytical bet first. So that is Man United to win or draw, double chance, approximately 1.36. Now I looked into it because I personally prefer the fractional format, and in a fractional format, that is 9 to 25. So you're not going to get a lot of return from that, but it is highly likely, I'd say. It says here quickly in the rationale, Man United have a strong record against Brentford. Yeah, Brentford have been inconsistent, which is true. Man United have a recent 2-1 victory over Chelsea, so that's going to give them good momentum going into this game. So win or draw appears statistically sound, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. But if you are going to put that bet on, there's a high chance of it happening statistically, but you're probably not going to get too much return from that. So that being said, let's move on to the adventurous bet. So you can see here, Bruno Fernandes to score any time and over 2.5 goals in the game, approximately 6 to 1. So these odds are an accumulation of all the bookmakers, so they're a bit of like a rough estimate. So I wouldn't take that as read that it's going to be 6 to 1, but it's going to be there or about around that figure. So quickly the rationale: Bruno Fernandes has been in excellent form. Brentford conceded at least 2 goals in 3 of their last 4 home games, suggesting a high scoring match is plausible. Okay, yeah, I think I do agree with that. I think that's fair enough. Probably the goals, the over 2.5 goals is putting those odds up a little bit, because I think this game could be a dud, potentially. I could see a 0-0 or a 1-1 maybe happening here, or a 1-0 either way. So yeah, not a bad bet there, statistically quite likely. So let's move on to the next game. So we've got Chelsea versus Brighton, and you can see here on screen the analytical bet is Chelsea to win and both teams to score, which is approximately 3 to 1, which isn't, that's not bad odds, I think, for that. Chelsea have a strong home record. Yeah, Brighton have been competitive, 3 wins in their last 6 against Chelsea. Both teams shown attacking intent. Combining Chelsea to win, both teams to score offers a balanced risk-reward proposition. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's fairly likely to happen. I seem to remember Brighton and Chelsea games always being pretty high scoring, so I don't think that's too bad. That's too bad there. On to the adventurous bet. João Pedro to score any time and over 3.5 goals, approximately 10 to 1. João Pedro's been in good form. Yeah, indicating trends towards high scoring encounters. Chelsea's recent matches have seen an average of over 3 goals per game, just against anyone. So yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. You got João Pedro back to his old team, so he probably knows how a lot of those defenders work and their sort of their patterns of play. So yeah, I think that's a really good one. As I said, Brighton and Chelsea games are quite high scoring, so that over 3.5 total goals will give you good odds, but it's actually probably pretty likely to happen statistically. So not bad there. But anyway, on to the next one. We've got Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. So the analytical bet, Liverpool to win and both teams to score, approximately 3 to 1. Liverpool have a dominant record against Palace, winning 9 of their last 10 league away matches against the Eagles. Wow, I didn't know that. Palace have won one of their last 16 EPL clashes with the Reds. Liverpool currently on a 5-match winning streak, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, this one isn't too hard to figure out. I mean, I personally would just I don't know, I think like these games normally end up sort of like 2-1. That's what I would go for anyway. But 3 to 1 odds isn't too bad there, actually, with both teams to score, because, Crystal Palace are still a very decent side. Anyway, the adventurous bet, here we go. Alexander Isak to score any time and over 3.5 total goals, that's around 10 to 1. So with Hugo Ekitike suspended for this match, Isak is expected to start for Liverpool. Isak recently scored his first goal for Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. Yeah. Both teams have shown attacking intent in recent matches, suggesting a possibility of high-scoring game. Yeah, okay. I don't think that's too bad. I think Isak will start. I thought he was going to start even if Ekitike didn't get red carded in that Carabao Cup game. So that is quite likely to happen, I would say. Over 3.5 goals, I think, is pushing it a little bit, because both are quite decent defences. but maybe that might be worth a punt. I personally don't think that it will be a very high scoring game. But anyway, what do I know? This is about what AI thinks, not me. So let's move on. So we've got the Leeds Bournemouth game, and the analytical bet is a draw. Just a draw. That's it. At 9-4. Both teams have shown competitive form, with Leeds having a 50% home win rate and Bournemouth suffering only one loss. Considering these factors, a draw appears statistically plausible. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. Leeds are at home, I think, so I think that may be why it's evening it up a bit. I think if Bournemouth were at home, I'd probably give them a better chance to come away with the win there. But let's have a look at the adventurous bet. So that is Bournemouth to win 2-0, which is at about 10-1. Not bad, not bad. Like I said, if they weren't away, I'd probably be a bit more inclined to put that on myself. But just quick rationale: Bournemouth's recent performances have been solid. Leeds have shown vulnerabilities. Combining a Bournemouth victory with a 2-0 scoreline offers high risk, higher reward betting option. Yeah, not bad. I don't think that's too bad of a bet at all. Personally, not sure if I'd put that on. But anyway, on to the next game. So we have Man City, who are at home to Burnley, one of the easier ones to predict, I think, this week. So ChatGPT's got to pull something a little bit spicy out of the bag. So here we go, the analytical bet. Manchester City to win 3-0, odds approximately 6-1. That's okay. I'm surprised that that's that high. Manchester City have a dominant record against Burnley, winning 18 of their last 22 encounters. City have been clinical at home, while Burnley have struggled defensively. Consider these factors, blah, 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 statistically plausible. Yeah, like I said, I was surprised that the odds are that decent, actually, for 3-0. But, it's one of those games where it could, like, Man City could score, like, 2 in the first 10 minutes and then just chill for the rest of the game, and then maybe even, like, let one in like, in the dying embers of the game. So, don't know. I never really like predicting exact scores because something always happens to screw you over, doesn't it? Or at least me, anyway. So anyway, the adventurous bet, we have got Erling Haaland to score any time and over 3.5 total goals, odds approximately 7-1. So not that much longer than the analytical bet. But the rationale: Erling Haaland has been in prolific form. Yeah, I don't think we need to read the rest of that. It's fairly obvious. Over 3.5 goals gives you a bit more wiggle room, obviously, because that could be 4, 5, 6-0. All of those will return you money. Yeah, I think that's not too bad, but 7-1 seems a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, there always could be something unknown that could throw that whole thing off, but not too shabby. But anyway, on to the next game. And that is Sunderland at home to Nottingham Forest. I think, yeah, Sunderland are at home, yeah. So the analytical bet, Nottingham Forest to win 1-0, okay, approximately 13-2, so about 6.5-1. Nottingham Forest have shown resilience at home. Not sure about that. With a recent 3-1 victory over Brentford. That was a while ago, wasn't it? Or was that? I thought that was 3-0 as well. Maybe I'm forgetting that. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Sunderland, while competitive, have faced challenges in away matches, including a 2-1 loss to Burnley. Considering these factors, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think this one's a bit of a nightmare to call, actually. Sunderland have looked decent, but they are still a newly promoted Championship side, whereas Forest have got proven Premier League quality players, even though they have been in terrible form. I do think that will change around at some point. So the Nottingham Forest win at 1-0 isn't too bad, I guess. But yeah, anyway, I'm not convinced by that one personally. But let's move on to the adventurous bet. So that is Sunderland to win 2-1, and that is at around 12-1. So the same sort of rationale, right? Sunderland have shown resilience with the ability to secure away victories, seen against their win at West Ham. Okay, what? 12-1. Yeah, again, I personally wouldn't touch this game with a barge pole. I think anything could happen in this, from a 0-0 draw to a 3-0 Sunderland win to a 4-1 Forest win. I really don't know. So anyway, yeah, I don't really like the idea of betting on this game. But obviously, if you want to, feel free. ChatGPT, it doesn't feel like it knows what it wants to do either. So maybe stay away from that one. Anyway, on to the next one. So we've got Spurs against Wolves, and the analytical bet says a Tottenham 2-0 win. Okay, approximately 11-2. So we're looking at 5.5-1. Tottenham Hotspur have been performing well under manager Thomas Frank, securing a 2-2 draw against Brighton. Currently third in the Premier League. Wolves, on the other hand, are struggling, sitting at the bottom of the table with no wins and a goal difference of -9. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Tottenham do look very good. They look a lot more defensively sound. Wolves, yeah, they look honking, to be honest. Although they did have a decent showing against Everton in the Carabao Cup, but I think both teams rested a lot of players, so it doesn't really indicate how their Premier League form is gonna go in the future. I do think Wolves are gonna start winning and getting points at some point, but I'm not sure it's going to be against Tottenham. So I think maybe a 2-0 win there kind of makes sense, but 11-2 odds is a little bit short, I think, isn't it? In my opinion, anyway. So the adventurous bet. Wolverhampton Wanderers to win 1-0, approximately 22-1. Now that is a shout. That's a hell of a shout. While Wolverhampton Wanderers are currently winless, they have shown resilience in their matches. A surprise 1-0 win against away victory against strong Tottenham side would be high risk, high reward scenario, offering significant returns. That is significant odds there, very long odds there. I don't know how likely that is to happen, but Tottenham do still have that sort of Spursy, moniker that they haven't quite shed yet. They've still got a bit of a shock result in them, I think, but yeah, they look good and Wolves look bad, so I'm not sure that is statistically too likely to happen, but on to the next game. So we've got Fulham against Aston Villa, and here we have the analytical bet, which is Fulham to win 2-0. A lot of score predictions going on here. So the odds there, approximately 11-2. Aston Villa have yet to secure a victory in the Premier League, having drawn 4 and lost 1. Yeah, they look terrible. They conceded a late equaliser despite playing against 10 men. Fulham have shown resilience and the ability to capitalise on opponents' weaknesses. 2-0 away victory. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Again, like similar with Wolves, I think Aston Villa are bound to pick up some sort of form at some point, right? And I think it could be this week. I don't know what's going on there, but they've definitely got the players and the management to be able to turn this around. So I don't know what's happening there. Anyway, let's move on to the the adventurous bet. So adventurous bet. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Head-to-head suggests Fulham often nick a goal even when they lose. Villa's defence can give up chances, so a 2-1 or 3-1 outcome isn't far-fetched. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Both teams do leak goals. I am a little bit worried about Villa's goal-scoring form. I mean, I don't know how many goals they've scored this season, but you could probably count them on one hand. Yeah, not convinced by this game. I think you'd probably give Fulham the title of favourites in this just because of form. But like I said, I've just got a feeling Villa are going to nick a result here and there and start building up some momentum. So I think this game you don't really want to touch this too much. But anyway, that's just my opinion. On to the next one. So on to the penultimate game, which is going to be Arsenal versus Newcastle. And here we have got the analytical bet, which is Arsenal to win 1-0. Again, they seem to be, ChatGPT seems to be going for a lot of score predictions. So hopefully it changes up a little bit, because I personally hate going for scores. They never work out. Anyway, Arsenal to win 1-0, approximately 11-2. So we've got 5.5-1. Arsenal have demonstrated strong form with a 2-0 victory over Port Vale. I mean, does that demonstrate good form? But I take the point. It has been, Arsenal have been looking pretty good, highlighted by goals from Eberechi, Eze and Leandro Trossard. Newcastle, on the other hand, have been inconsistent with a recent 1-1 draw against Bournemouth. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Newcastle kind of have Arsenal's number a little bit. They always give them a really tough game. They're really defensively sound, and so are Arsenal, obviously. So, yeah, I think Arsenal 1-0 win makes a lot of sense there, actually. And I think 11-2, statistically, I think that's probably half decent odds, in my opinion. Anyway, the adventurous bet, which is going to be a Newcastle United 2-1 win, approximately 9-1. While Arsenal have been strong, Newcastle have shown resilience, including a 4-1 victory over Bradford City in the Carabao Cup. That's not really resilience, is it, again? But I take its point, yeah. A surprise 2-1 home victory for Newcastle would offer a high-risk, high-reward, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Newcastle 2-1 at 9-1. I hate this. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I could be totally wrong and look like an absolute fool, but I think you'd want at least 15-1 to stick that bet on, to bet against Arsenal for them to concede 2 goals when they've conceded only 1 big chance so far in the Premier League in all games. So for them to concede 2 goals and lose it at 9-1, to me, I don't rate that at all. So yeah, not actually convinced by the adventurous bet, but the analytical bet seems like pretty likely to happen. So anyway, on to the next one, which is the last game of the game week. Is going to be West Ham against Everton. Now, the analytical bet is West Ham to have most shots on target. Okay, approximately 4 to 5. Rationale: West Ham have averaged 5.2 shots on target per game this season, while Everton averaged 3.1. With Everton's defensive vulnerabilities, West Ham is likely to dominate in chances on goal. Fair enough. I mean, that is some cold, hard stats there in our face, which does make a lot of sense. When I first saw that come up, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a wild shout. But yeah, I guess, like, if they're averaging 2 more shots per game than Everton at the moment, then that kind of makes sense. That makes sense why the odds are so short as well, 4 to 5. Might want to stick that on like I'd probably put that on a bet builder or something maybe, but that's just me. Again, this isn't betting advice. So on to the adventurous bet. Njai to score or assist and under 2.5 goals at 9-1 approximately. Rationale: Njai has been directly involved in 2 of West Ham's last 4 goals. Everton have struggled to score, and West Ham matches this season have often been tight affairs, apart from the 5-1 drubbing they got, and then the 3-0 victory over Forest. But yeah, I mean, they've not been good, have they, West Ham? So Njai contributes to a single goal in a low-scoring match. Okay, I think that kind of is a pretty good one. That's not too bad. The odds are quite good for that. I think Njai is pretty central to what goes on in that Everton attack alongside Jack Grealish. So under 2.5 goals as well. Yeah, I can see that. Both aren't particularly impressive going forward. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Yeah, I guess that would be an okay bet to put on. Again, not betting advice, but 9-1, I'd probably want to maybe something a little bit better than that. But anyway, that was it. So just quickly at the end of this, I am going to ask it to do a little accumulator, what it would do. So let's have a look at that now. So yeah, just to summarize, we've asked ChatGPT to do an accumulator, what it would put on, and it's just gone for results here. So it's gone for a 6-leg accumulator, 6-fold. Man City to win against Burnley, Chelsea to beat Brighton, Tottenham to beat Wolves, Liverpool to beat Palace, Arsenal to beat Newcastle, and Villa to beat Fulham, which will end up around 24-1, which is, yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think most of them are likely to happen. I think Brighton could potentially upset Chelsea. I'm not convinced on picking Aston Villa to win any games at the moment. Despite what I said about the Arsenal-Newcastle bet, I do think Newcastle have a chance to disrupt things and maybe eke out a draw, or maybe nick a 1-0 win, something like that. So yeah, I don't love it. But it's probably the best accumulator you could put on this weekend if you were going to. But anyway, so that is what ChatGPT would bet, and it will be interesting to see the outcomes here. I think it's made some half decent shouts, some not so good shouts that I'm not convinced of. So yeah, I'll be very, very interesting to see. I am keeping the ChatGPT model updated, so it is as good as it can be. Yes, I'm not using like an old version or anything, so this is as good as it gets. So let's see. And that is the video. If you watched up to this point, first of all, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And while you're here, if I could just ask you to subscribe to the channel and like the video, if you fancy, of course, that would be very much appreciated. But in any event, thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.